Good evening, Uganda, and a warm welcome to the show on the spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is the president of the Alliance for National Transformation, retired Major General Muntu. Thank you so much for joining us, General Muntu. A warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
And thank you for having honored our invitation. I've been looking forward to host you on this show because you always add value to the show, and we're looking forward to have a great discussion. You come on the show tonight when Ugandans are digging deeper in their pockets to buy basic needs, commodity prices are skyrocketing, and somehow people are hurting. You are a national leader, you are a party leader. The other day, you're contending to be president of Uganda. In a situation like this, what does the General Muntu do?
Let me first make a correction. When I picked the flag for Alliance for National Transformation, I ceased being the party leader.
Oh, yes.
That's what our constitution is. I keep trying to make that correction everywhere. But there seems to remain the assumption that I'm still the party leader. I'm not. Honorable Ali Salaso is the national coordinator of the party until we go into elections right from grassroots, and then we will elect a substantive chairperson. We don't have a president. And that chairperson, the moment they become the leader of the party, they have to go in that position very well knowing that there's no other position they can run for outside the party. They can't run for the presidency, not for MP, not for...
With all respect, the Honorable,
yes.
With all respect, the Honorable Ali Salaso, General Muntu, you are the leader of NT.
I'm part of the leadership, yes. We build teams.
All right.
Yes.
Having resolved that and put the record straight, Ugandans are having to dig deeper in their pockets.
Yes.
We are paying through the nose.
Yep.
Commodity prices are skyrocketing. We have national leaders like you, a party leader like you, also somebody who was a contender, a major contender to lead Uganda. In a situation like this, what would be the prescription for General Muntu for Uganda's case?
Any group that will get into power or run the affairs of the country in a manner in which the country is moved on a path of sustained economic growth and development, I think one of the key factors is discipline. To focus national resources in productive areas and then grow the economy. But once you have a group of people who are indisciplined, who focus resources in non-productive areas, mostly in consumptive areas, there's no way you'll fail to get into these kinds of crises that we get into.
The job of appropriating money to the different sectors of our economy is a job that is really for the parliament, and the 11th parliament of Uganda. General Muntu, is it your view that the parliament of Uganda, that has a job of appropriation, is indisciplined?
That's what it's supposed to be. It's meant to be, as you said. The parliament is an institution ordinarily that is supposed to legislate, carry out oversight roles, and check the executive. In a normal situation, that's how it's supposed to be. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case yet in our country. There's still contention. The whole struggle is about building strong institutions so we can cease to have the experience where the executive literally terrorizes the other branches of government or the state. Because again, in underdeveloped countries where institutions have not yet become strong, the principle of separation of powers is hardly ever observed or practiced. Because ordinarily you are supposed to have a parliament as an institution, judiciary as well as the executive, independent of each other but closely coordinating effort for purpose of developing a country. That's been one of the biggest contentious areas since independence for many African countries. Some have made it, others are still struggling. So now the case of Uganda is that we have a strong-willed and manipulative head of state who has deliberately eroded the other two branches, the executive as well as the parliament as well as the judiciary. And where you can't blame him 100%, because there's no way he would achieve that unless a significant number of people who exist in the other two branches, if they are not compliant.
Meaning what?
I mean, we have a state which I can't easily decipher in quite a number of African countries. The elite who occupy those positions, I think they focus a lot more on their own survival as individuals rather than advancing the interests of the people and the countries in which they are, because the building of strong institutions.
So, General Muntu, are you really,
is the most critical
you are
thing
really bordering at either challenging or more or less abusing the integrity and the knowledge and the understanding of the leaders that we have, that they are there for survival?
I mean, what's the evidence? We should just, it's not what I'm saying, so it's what we are reading. You know?
It's your view that the leaders that we have, the elite that we have, are in a survival mode?
Yes, unfortunately. Because look, members of parliament have got security of tenure. Once you are elected, you have 5 years. They were paid. There's absolutely no reason why any member of parliament should bow to the executive. They can cooperate with the executive, but in doing what is right.
Do you understand that these are people's representatives, elected by the people of Uganda, that they truly represent Uganda, including in Tungamosa, where you come from?
Yeah. What's the evidence? I mean, you have to look at the evidence. What's going on in the country? I mean, when you see the number of things which have happened in our parliament, starting with the amendment of the constitution twice, and the manner in which it was done, and a number of other controversial
So in your
issues,
view,
yes.
in your view, General Muntu, what should the Parliament of Uganda, the 11th Parliament, be doing right now?
If all the parliaments, starting from the 6th, which I'm aware of, I was part of that parliament, if all subsequent parliaments had followed the example of the 6th Parliament, I can tell this country wouldn't be in the mess in which it is right now. Because the 6th Parliament was borrowed. And you remember, at that time it was actually even, there was no multi-party system of governance yet. So ordinarily one would have expected that the members of parliament, of the 6th Parliament, would have been compliant because of just being in one system, because at that time it was a movement system of governance. But they were looking at the country. They were looking at how to strengthen parliament to become an independent institution, though it coordinates with the executive. Unfortunately, the following members of parliament, up to now, the ones currently in I don't know, it's 11th, now yes, 11th Parliament, they've been systematically eroded in terms of their capability to stand their ground in projecting the interests of the country. And this is the mess we are in now. Yeah. So now, and incidentally, look at the judiciary. I always really want to avoid the judiciary. The judiciary is a unique area. Actually, the judiciary is one area where I normally put the judiciary above the executive and the legislative assembly. Those two are political. The other one is supposed to be really professional and is the ultimate arbiter. Actually, it's the ultimate protector of a citizen in terms of administering justice. That area, the manner in which it has been eroded.
So now, what can be the result?
You know, I know what happens behind the scene. The moment you find intimidation, the moment you find the use of money, and then there are many good judges, there are many good magistrates, we know many who take a stand. They resist manipulation, they resist intimidation, they resist the allure of money. And we salute them, and I believe history will pay them well. But those who bow, those who have crumbled, and literally part of the midwifing of the crisis that could emerge in this country, I have a feeling that they also take responsibility for eventually what could happen.
You speak with a lot of confidence about those who have bowed, those who have deviated from the truth or from justice, and perhaps you know them. Who are they?
Like, I wouldn't go into that, really, honestly. It wouldn't even be fair for me. But history judges...
Why then do you talk about something that you wouldn't want to conclude? Take it to its logical conclusion.
Because time judges all of us. There's always that time of reckoning for all of us, fortunately, for all of us.
So, what could be the resultant effect of a Uganda where people are digging deeper in their pockets to buy a bar of soap, to buy a loaf of bread, and when the money is not there, where are we headed? Where do we see us? Where do you see us headed?
Two things. You cannot wholly blame the government here in Uganda for this economic situation that is prevailing in the country, because it is consistent with what is happening in the rest of the world. Because of a war which is happening between Russia and Ukraine, and the escalation of the prices of oil, it has had a global impact. However, the manner in which governments take measures which mitigate the negative impact on the citizens is dependent on the nature of the people who run that government. One, prior to the crisis, if it is a government that would have been responsible, that would have planned, for example, I mean, in our case, it is so unfortunate that I can understand the initial part of this government when there were wars. One would understand the concentration of resources in fighting wars and pacifying the country. But thereafter, you cannot understand how a country which is landlocked cannot have fuel reserves, cannot have food reserves, cannot have reserves of essential medicines. That's basic. Any responsible government would do that.
You've just blamed the situation not only in Uganda but the global situation right now.
But when it comes
part of the inflation we have is imported inflation.
When it comes,
but you still say
yes,
your colleagues or former colleagues are actually in this.
Oh, not only have they been sleeping on the job, a number of things they do deliberately. I mean, look at the depth of corruption in this country. It's frightening. You know, and so, the moment there is corruption,
General Muntu,
it impacts
you realize
on service
tonight
delivery.
you're making a lot of allegations. There's a deliberate attempt by leaders to actually collapse the country.
No, you know, the thing is that many of them never recognize that the things they are doing, that the cumulative effect of them is to bring down the country.
Then it is not deliberate.
They deliberately steer, but they don't understand the consequences of what will emerge out of that. Most times.
You know, you keep saying
most times. I mean, look at the countries which have imploded.
A strong executive. Does that imply Minister Kasaija, the Honorable Katumba Wamala, or you just say the President Museveni? Because I can't believe that the ministers who belong to the executive are the ones really with the power, do they?
You know, General Museveni, I've said this a number of times, he's a micromanager. And literally what happens in the executive lies on him as a person. He's someone who's, for so many years, who would have hoped that he would have, along the way, maybe changed style. He completely failed to change style. Micromanagers are very, very weak at delegation. Actually, they're incapable of delegating power and responsibility. That's why the method they apply, and it's not only in politics, it's not only about General Museveni, or micromanagers, even if they are heads of economic enterprises, even if they are leaders of faith organizations, even if they are leaders of cultural organizations, once anybody is a micromanager, what happens is that systems cannot grow under them. Institutions become weak, and they create a set of fear in any entity that they are head of. So that's the situation we face. I mean, even in government, the running of government. I don't think that most of those ministers, even the mistakes which are made, that you can entirely blame them. You can only blame them when they find that they don't have any room for maneuver and they stick to the job. Because normally the choice, you walk. Because that is the best solution. Because if you are put in a ministry, you are supposed to deliver, but you are not given a space in which to operate. So if you comply and stick around, then you just have to carry the blame.
So his modus operandi.
Yeah. That one is...
you don't approve of
it worked well, for example, when there was the conduct of a guerrilla war, but he completely failed to adjust the moment he became the head of state.
Maybe you guerrillas are not good leaders.
Oh, well, there are many who emerge and build institutions.
Like who?
Know? What do you mean, like who?
I look around the region, people have been guerrillas and have waged wars to topple government, and I see them still struggling. So I was wondering, scratching my head to get just one example. They seem not to have done a good job.
One thing, that's not because of micromanagement style. I think the effect of that is more rooted in the sense of entitlement. When you get weapons and fight. I know that has also played a big role in where we have ended up. Because see, when you get weapons and you fight a regime and you oust it, it's an effective method. There are many who have captured government that
we have seen.
Now they fail in democratizing power thereafter. Because you know, when they know, you are few, you've got weapons, you have fought, lots of sacrifices that come along with that. You know, they fight for power when you're using weapons. And most times you find the largest part of the population is not directly engaged. So when you take power, the temptation to manage power in which those who take it by force of arms do, because of that sense of sacrifice, which brings a sense of entitlement. That's the problem.
Yeah, but because people like you, with all respect, want the bush to fight, and you're trying out democracy without being Democrats.
Democracy is a challenge. One, it's not a one-day event. It's a process. But for there to be a democratic governance, there must be Democrats. You cannot build a democracy without democratic-minded people. I think that's the biggest failure on the African continent, even here. I mean, you can get 10 people talking about democracy, but you'll find that only 2 are democratic-minded. That's why actually when many get into power, they continue doing the same things that those whom they have ousted would have been doing.
What will it take for us to see a Uganda or Ugandans who can view Uganda from the prism of General Muntu and others? Because it appears the elite have maybe given up, surrendered, or they just don't care. Or maybe they're in their comfort zone. So what will it take for us to have a vibrant citizenry, a civic competence that can ask the right questions, demand for the rights, demand for accountability? Because in my view, that is what is lacking.
To keep on the effort by those who believe in those values, to keep talking, to keep training. Hopefully when a group which goes into power is democratic-minded, that they believe in justice, they believe in equality, they believe in equal opportunities, then they can deliberately push that program as an awareness program, put it through schools, put it through all manner of channels, so that eventually the levels of political consciousness of the population are deepened. That is not done. I mean, right now you find that most of the regimes, autocratic regimes, they want to impede the process of people becoming aware and therefore becoming confident in demanding for their rights, because it's a danger to their hold on to power. So it's contention. So the struggle will continue until the groups that want to monopolize power for purpose of exploiting the populations are overwhelmed. And that's why maybe I would think that it's unfortunate that a significant portion of the educated are disengaged. Because power is tempting. You know, every group, group has gone into power since 1962. Like remember? Since 1962.
Yes, but how do
there's no group which has gone into there and not gotten drunk. None. All of them. So in a situation of that nature, how can anybody who's gone to school afford to disengage, but at the same time hope for a better future?
How do you make them engage? How do you
They
engage?
must participate in conversations. They must participate in organizing. They don't have to go into rallies. They can back up political parties, because political parties are the vehicles of governance that cannot be escaped. There's no time when a church will run this country, or a mosque, or a clan, or an NGO, or a parastatal, or whatever. The vehicles of governance are parties, period, unless the constitution is changed. Now, for power to be exercised responsibly, it's the parties that must be grown. So the people who want a better future must participate in the building of the parties. They don't have to join directly.
You are a party leader and you have a big job to grow your own party.
That's what we are doing. Even as we speak right now, we are communicating.
Let me tell you, General Muntu, there's something that is so intriguing, because in the election of 2020, I tried on my own to ask a few people, on this list of candidates that are vying to lead Uganda, whom do you think would be a better president? Believe you me, people are telling me what? General Muntu is better than all of these by far. But when it comes to the ballot, I wonder what happens, General Muntu. Are you just an unlucky man?
Most of the people who tell you that, I doubt whether they even voted. I mean, there are many people who don't vote.
Okay, my sampling may not be scientific, but at least I tried.
I can tell you there are many educated people who don't vote. Many. They are disengaged from the process. Yes, I know that. Somehow, I don't know how we'll correct that. We'll have to keep talking. Because the future has to be influenced in the direction which we
How
desire
can a man who is considered to be the best on the ballot actually perform poorly?
I know that. I studied the dynamics. I knew, like in the last election, the competition was between General Museveni and Bobby Wine. I was not blind. I could see that. But also, I know the contributory factors. So what we do, because we fight long term, I have told people before, we run a marathon. So we have to keep on talking and trying to organize.
But this marathon of yours, General Muntu,
people who are like-minded. Yes. What is the alternative? There's no alternative other than going through the process we go through to change the mindsets of people.
This marathon of you, General Muntu,
if
it was a journey from Egypt to Canaan, the people are dying in the desert.
Who will liberate them? It is themselves. They must participate in their own liberation.
Are you a frustrated man?
No, I am not. Patrick, there are two types of people on this planet. There are people who walk by sight. There are people who walk by faith. I walk by faith. Therefore, I cannot be frustrated because of what I see in the physical realm. I can't be frustrated. Because I also am a person who operates from the end state. I know the end state. I know that there will be victory. So whatever I meet in the way does not fluster me at all, because I know the end state.
But if General Muntu's election results were to improve by 1,000%, it doesn't even give you victory. And even at 1,000%, it doesn't happen that often.
It doesn't even have to be me, Muntu. As long as what I subscribe to, the ideals, the principles, the values we stand for example, as Alliance for National Transformation, if we can attract a critical number of young men and women of integrity, people who want to shape the future to be better than what it is, and that idea succeeds, so be it.
You stood for values, you stand for integrity, and you stand for all these good things. You, an honest man, and everybody can see that. People who allied with you in that alliance, they collapsed.
What do you mean the alliance?
Who carried the flag?
Oh, you mean those who ran on our ticket?
Yes.
I mean, they were in the same boat. No, but incidentally, I can't, claim that I would have won. I know for sure. I am not someone who's just... I see.
So you're running a different race in that.
I see situations and interpreted them in realistic terms. I could see where the competition was. But at parliamentary level, I know for sure that we would have got around 10 to 15 members of parliament. But also know for sure that there were direct involvement of the regime to ensure that ANT, specifically ANT, does not even get one member of parliament. I know for sure that.
What would you say otherwise on this show?
What do you mean? I could have said that for the presidency. I don't. But I know for sure that at parliamentary, they did that.
General Muntu,
they basically detected those who had potential to win, and they systematically eliminated them. That does not frustrate us still. Because we know we will succeed in what we are doing.
General Muntu, hold on to your point, because we're going to take a break, and the hot seat will be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is the leader, top leader of the Alliance for National Transformation, General Mugisha Muntu, coordinator, right?
No.
you, because, okay, let me...
You could say former presidential flag bearer.
For the Alliance for National Transformation,
for
yeah. You. I don't know how I'm going to separate that, but I really think like you and the Alliance are Siamese twins, and it's very hard to separate. But so we have seen in other countries when people are pressed against the wall,
yes,
they seem to come out and assert themselves, and things change. We saw it in Tunisia and other parts in North Africa, even though sometimes that was marred by violence.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ugandan situation, is it because we are so lucky as a country? Sometimes we get food. Other countries are not just like Uganda. You know, if there's no bread, there's no bread. Everybody will feel it. But even here, when we have our inflation and economic hardship, still people can find something to eat, which is a good thing. God has blessed us in the best part of the world.
Yes.
But that also may be our biggest disadvantage, that we cannot organize ourselves and speak with one voice and be assertive, and leaders like you can listen to us.
To be honest with you, I don't know exactly where the problem stems. I mean, Ukraine is the biggest exporter of wheat.
Yes, the food basket of the world.
I mean, it's sort of the most successful.
But they still have the fight in them.
But you can see the fight they have put up against Russia. Russia is a superpower. It's a nuclear power. Actually, Russia thought it could overrun Ukraine within a week. But it's been fought to a stalemate. Ukrainians, you can imagine Ukrainians who were in US, in UK, in Europe, having jobs, well-paying jobs, left their jobs and said, to
come in the war trenches.
We cannot be slaves. We will fight the death. Those are people who understand what integrity means, what dignity means. Rather dignity, not integrity, dignity. Because the people who have no dignity, who have no sense that to be whole, you must have dignity. People who can't understand that are bound to be enslaved.
So there's a dignity deficit in Uganda?
Yes, unfortunately.
You know, I think you sound like a man who's losing hope.
No. No, I'm just voicing reality. Just crystallizing it and bring it out, because it is part, because the moment maybe people recognize where there's a deficit, then one hopes they can start building it up, because it exists within us. Every human being has that.
There are millions of Ugandans, I suppose, who could
but it depends on why
who are happy with the status quo, who are happy with the situation. The other day, they converged somewhere to celebrate the birthday of one of the generals. You could see happiness and people moving on. And
I don't know whether that is happiness.
Well, people went and enjoyed, and another head of state came and joined the party, and there was celebration. And there is that group of Ugandans.
I have a feeling that if you sit down with them, most of them would express dissatisfaction in the state of their being in terms of the fulfillment of their desires, what they would want to achieve in life. I'm not so sure that you could even get 5 out of 10 people in those kinds of crowds who feel fulfilled. I have a feeling that most of them are desperate and they're just looking for how to survive. You know?
They are there for a meal just?
That's what we have been broken down to, unfortunately.
By the way, you were at one point commander of the UPDF or NRA then. I have seen a serving military officer who, you know, with campaign almost t-shirts, campaign paraphernalia, talking about 2026 presidency, like as if there's supposed to be a transition from the current incumbent president to a serving military officer. And yet, the UPDF High Command is not even raising a finger to say, you know what, even though you have not stated it yourself, what is being done in your name that you have not condemned, you should be questioned for it. What do you make of that?
You know, I think we are sleepwalking ourselves into a crisis. That's something which really I'm not able to decipher, to be honest with you.
Would you imagine any other soldier,
yes, no,
serving
no
UPDF soldier, to have campaign paraphernalia, t-shirts in his name, talking about a project moving on, and he's not called to order?
No other general, a serving general in the army would do that. Not here.
So General MK is a special one, right?
And two, I can tell you that like what happened in Lugogo the other day can't happen in Kenya, it cannot happen in Tanzania, it cannot happen in Rwanda. There are very few countries where it can happen. That's simply basically,
North Korea,
I really would have
Uganda.
You know? You know, we've been there before. That's what amazes me.
Well,
because you know,
to be fair to General
history.
MK, in his speech he never talked about the presidency. He seemed to have walked through a landmine of potential explosive words that he could have said. He didn't. So
Did he even have to? I mean, you can see the whole thing is being choreographed.
is that what you read?
Yes. Now, 2 days ago, I read someone sent me a letter from Parliament writing to the army, proposing that they have a match between the parliamentary team and the UPDF team celebrating that birthday.
By the way, today I just
Do you understand what that means?
Do you know there are going to be regional birthday parties
Yes.
for General Muhoozi? I don't know whether it's sanctioned by him, but at least I received a call from Fort Portal.
Yes.
Some young men there on May 5th organizing another birthday. And perhaps it's going to, from there, the relay will go to northern Uganda, then to eastern.
They can do
so what are we getting into?
They can do whatever they... Now, why I raise the issue of Parliament? Parliament is the one which should be now drawing back and say exactly which direction is the country heading. He is an officer of the army in uniform, the command of the land forces. They are the ones who will be raising the questions. But they are writing to UPDF.
But also he has also shown special abilities in diplomacy. When Kigali and Kampala were at loggerheads, his shuttle diplomacy has helped to actually potentially avert what could be even a war. Have President Paul Kagame fly to Uganda for the first time in many years. Give it to him.
Yes, yes, he achieved that. But that does not justify a military officer in uniform now when we're in a multi-party dispensation. It's a principle that you must build on. And you let it happen as if it's something normal. And the institution which is supposed to question that, Parliament, They want to participate in that. That shows you the state at which we are as a country. Let me draw you back to what I talked about earlier on, the issue of moving by faith, not by sight.
General Muntu,
yes.
I think, with all respect, you should wake up and smell the coffee. Transition has begun.
I don't mind whatever they are doing. Let me tell you one thing. Maybe it's a political talk show, and I know in politics many people don't pay attention to spiritual matters, but let me tell you this. I am a believer.
You're a man of faith.
I believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The God of Muntu at the same time is a God of everybody who wants to tag his or her name onto that. So you could easily say the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Patrick, or anybody else who wants to add his or her name.
Yes.
What we're involved in right now, this struggle, is political, all right. But we are fighting for the soul of the country, of this nation. Now, there are those who think that because they have whatever they have, weapons and whatever they have, that makes them superior. I refer them to Psalms 20, verse 6. The chariots and horses talked about in that are those tanks they think they have. They'll be brought down.
Is that a prophecy?
Right, always. Since the beginning of time, triumphs over evil. You will be scattered.
That's a prophet of doom, General Muntu.
No. It's a prophecy of good triumphing over evil.
Let's face it. Just like you and me and any other Ugandan that has what is required by the Constitution to lead, can aspire to lead this country.
Come again?
Can aspire to lead this country. We can choose to be leaders, but we cannot choose who is going to be our parents.
Yeah. So?
General Muhoozi never chose General Museveni to be his father, but he can choose his destiny.
Yes, and who is stopping him? I mean, General Muhoozi, as I've said before, has got a right to run for any office that is open to any citizen.
There's a feeling, there's that talk like, no, it cannot be.
No, no.
We forget
people don't,
that
let me tell you, people don't understand.
My father and your siblings, it was never our choice for those people to be our fathers.
You know, even
but
when
it is our choice to know where we want to go.
Patrick, what, for example, I'm saying is not just about General Muhoozi as a person. I would have said it about any other general, even if he wasn't a son of the president. If he was still in uniform and is involved in politics when we're in a multi-party dispensation. Basically, that's the principle. Two, okay, General Muhoozi is positioning himself for the presidency, whatever process they want.
Well, the people are championing that. I'm waiting for him to say it loud and clear so that we can take him on his word. But he seems to be not saying it for now.
If I was to give him advice, if he wanted even to win the presidency because of popularity, he would have designed a different strategy. He would have projected himself as a reformer, even if it meant that he could end up at loggerheads with the system, including his own father. Then people would know that, yes, he's a son of a president who has really rode roughshod over us.
Well, you cannot rule out the abilities of a man who has been able to be president for 40 years of a nation. So an apple does not fall far away from the tree. He knows what he's doing.
Who is Gaddafi? Where's Mubarak? Where is Saddam Hussein? Where is Mugabe? They all led for that many years. And what is their legacy? Destroyed nations. Two, General was in this kind of contention. If he's the one who would have stood firm and said, you know, I can't break a principle on the basis of which a nation should be built. A uniformed person should not engage in politics. So I am getting out of uniform. I am going to compete. Then one would read and say, this guy could take a nation out of a crisis. But you participate in the manipulation.
Well, officially, he just had a party.
Look, I really aren't going to get, you know, there are people who can organize. I see people, you know, in different parts of the country holding whatever they hold. Many of them don't understand the discussion we're holding right now, the principles behind the stability of nations. Many of them simply go in there, they drink themselves, you know, to excitement, they eat food and whatever else, they have expectations, maybe they get access to opportunities and things like that. That's okay. It happens in many parts of the world. But there are many people who keep coming into power, getting out. But to become a leader, you must lead a country that is in existence. And then one would also hope that people would be working to replace leaders, but lead countries which remain stable, even during a transitional process. Right now, I can tell there is uncertainty in the whole country. I even have a feeling that even they themselves are not certain as to what is happening. But because of what you've just talked about, General Museveni has led this country for so many years. He has maneuvered through so many situations which have been so complicated, and he succeeds. And therein also lies the danger, to think that because you've overcome all the challenges, even this you can attempt. But there's always the last attempt when you push a button on one extra maneuver and there's an implosion. That's where the danger lies. And that's why, in my own estimation of things, the way I see things happening, I have a feeling that really this move they are making, hopefully down the road they may listen to many voices which are coming out and pull back.
So we have a constitution.
And start doing things in a transparent way. If he wants General Muhoozi to run as a president, retire him from the army. He announces his intention to run for the presidency, goes in NRM. If he wants to become the candidate of NRM, they can elect him, whatever, and compete. We've not had fair competitions even in the past, even when General Museveni himself has been the leader. But even that has got its limit, because we are involved in a struggle where different forces are contending for power. For the longest time, those of us who have wanted to have qualitative change have not succeeded yet. But one hopes that even in that contention, that the country remains intact. Because even those of us who are involved don't think that we are completely careless and reckless, that we would want a country to just collapse or be pushed over the cliff. We wouldn't want to do that, but nor should they. Nor should they.
Let me ask you.
So you don't play Russian roulette with the country like they seem to be doing.
Let me ask you, because you understand the military. Your colleagues who are still serving, those generals and their shining tips, what could they be thinking about today's situation?
To be honest with you, Patrick, I have no clue. But I can imagine if I was in there.
You know, you're being very polite, you know. I want to put it to you, General Muntu, that you're being very polite, that you actually know what is going on. You're a very modest man. But
you know, I really pray that we remain stable as a country.
let me try to read something that has just come on my line here, my phone here. General Muntu, while serving in the army, did have democracy in your mind? Did you have democracy in your mind, the heart of leaders serving for a given term and retiring thereafter, in particular His Excellency President Museveni, or you chose to champion democracy after leaving the army? Second, no single party can remove NRM from power. Do you subscribe to a coalition democracy, and would you return to FDC if called for reconciliation?
The first
Unfortunately,
one, yes,
this question is from Anonymous.
incidentally, I am a Democrat in thinking and in practice. And there's evidence to show for it. I mean, I possibly, maybe, I have not read extensively history, but if I may recall, I possibly might be the only party leader who has ever lost in an election which he or she organized. Yep. I'm not aware of any other. Not once, twice, and conceded. Actually, no, 4 times. No. The first 2 when I lost, I wasn't the leader of the party. But in 2015, I was the leader of the party. Dr. Chiza Besigye came and competed for the flag and won. In 2017, when Patrick won, I was the leader of the party. And the manager of elections, incidentally, you know, the one who managed those elections, is now the chairperson of the Electoral Commission of ANT. What does that tell you? You think we couldn't have manipulated those 2 elections if we had wanted? I had significant influence in the party. At the level of NEC, the majority of the leaders of parliament, the majority of NEC was on our side. Twice I lost elections and conceded. So someone says that, am I a Democrat? What other example would one want? In Chankwanzi, I was one of those people, we were only 6 who contended against the amendment of the term limit clause. 6 of us out of 300 plus delegates who were in Chankwazi of National Council of the movement then. Honorable Matembe, Honorable Sarah Chinji, Honorable Bidandi Sari, Honorable Amanya Mshega, the late Katega, and myself. Only 6.
The gang of 6.
And then he chased away all the others who were members of the cabinet immediately after that. So I believe in term limits.
So in your view,
yes,
because actually the person who sent this question, you seem not to have touched it. I mean, probably there will be a need of some kind of a coalition of those forces of change that are thinking the same, for us to be able to, for you to be able to see your desired goals. Yeah. You cannot dispute the fact that the NRM juggernaut is not going to be pushed over. And for you to be able...
That does stop us from fighting.
Yeah, you will fight, but you are fighting...
We'll keep fighting, and there is always a turning point. Always, there's a turning point. Now, once you know that eventually you succeed, and you have the resilience to continue fighting, eventually you succeed. You know?
So now, what are you doing in rebranding yourselves so that now you can make another charm offensive that this time around maybe you could be lucky?
Our biggest focus really is on 2 fronts, at least as Alliance for National Transformation, is in focusing, mobilizing resources, human as well as financial. Human in the sense of attracting Ugandans who are like-minded, who subscribe the values that we stand for. In the real sense, who want to live what they desire to see happen. If they talk about justice, if they talk about fairness, if they talk about transparency, if they talk about equality before the law, if they talk about equal opportunities, there are people really who feel those values and who want to see them implemented. So the more we attract, the more we build into the party ranks, the more we will be sure that even the day we take power, that we will not get drunk while in power, and that we will start building a new foundation on the base of which good governance can be exercised. That's one of the key things that we keep focused on. And of course, financial resources, because you can't build an organization to become formidable, strong, robust, to contend and overwhelm a group like this without resources. So we have to keep talking to Ugandans, those who want a better future. They have to invest into it. And when you talk about investments, we're not talking about huge amounts of money. We're talking about Ugandans who can raise 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. Because the cumulative effect of that, if you get 100,000 giving 5,000, how much is that? 100,000 times, that's about 500 million?
Yeah, but
a month. A partner like KNT will get that kind of money, I can tell you, within a year. You just see these fellows really running like a chicken whose heads have been cut off.
And
but people don't want to invest. And two, let me communicate to Ugandans. You need to invest into political parties that you believe in. Why? Because it is a way of immunizing yourselves as the Ugandan people against what could easily happen down the road. There's an English saying that whoever pays the piper calls the tune. If you don't invest in parties, for parties to build themselves and owe allegiance to you as a people, as the citizens of this country, don't think that all party leaders are strong. You can have a situation where there is a lot of money floating all over this world. There is money which is intended to influence governments, to do some things in countries, for example, talk about some, you know, as if you get like drug traffickers. They have money. They come and put into a party, either which is already in power or is vying to get into power.
They'll come for their pound of flesh. Hold on to your...
But if a party is funded by the citizens themselves, they feel responsible for the interests of the citizens. This is basic understanding. And where we are heading, Ugandans, you need most of those who are educated. Look beyond Uganda, look at what's happening in the rest of the world. There's a realignment of forces globally. The rest of the world is focusing on Africa. Uganda being Africa, everybody wants to come in here because the resources in Africa. If we don't build strong parties which can run strong governments, responsible government that can take care of the natural resources, of the interests of us as a people, not only as Ugandans, but even those in the rest of the African countries, we can easily be enslaved.
All right. Hold on.
Why can't people understand that?
Hold on.
That's basic.
To your point, General Muntu, because we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll open the lines so that you two at home or wherever you are, you can call and tell us what you think, or even ask a question if you have one to General Muntu, and he will respond to you. We'll be right back. Oh, now you know. And before that, there was this young man also who was so inspired by Dr. Besigye.
Yes.
Unfortunately, now he's languishing in Ndola prison.
Unfortunately.
But Mugumya, if Mugumya spoke, you, at one point you would think there was a Dr. Besigye. Yeah. And so others who have been inspired by General Yoweri Museveni. So yes, so it's upon you leaders. What you do is actually interpreted and appreciated by people, and they can start to walk and talk like you.
The moment when we get lucky as a people, as a country, and we get men and women of integrity in leadership positions, and they are consistent in doing what is right, 5 years, 10 years is good enough to change the thinking and the practices in a society.
So, I know you're saying that good is going to triumph over evil.
That's
but in the process of that...
It happened since the beginning of time. It has always happened. Unfortunately, we never learn lessons from that. You know, it's unfortunate, but since that's partly human nature, but also the good thing is that while human nature has got its negative aspects where people get overwhelmed and they do wrong, the goodness within us as human beings, there are those who focus on that and it becomes the dominant force within them, and therefore they act as instruments of good, and eventually they keep on overwhelming the wrong elements who would have been exercising power. So it's been cycle after cycle, cycle after cycle, and that's how there has been a consistent human progress until this point in time. So we are in another cycle. And therefore, people who lose hope, don't lose hope. Know that right always triumphs over evil. But the people who believe in the doing of right must keep running around that and fight until victory. Because if you give up, eventually we end up in a crisis anyway. So why would we go through another cycle of crisis? Why on earth would we do that? Why?
So, okay, let's look at the broader thing, and I want to hear views, because it appears, whereas we have all these troubles, probably the center is not holding, but we see the region coalescing, coming together. The East African community is a strong community.
It's a good thing. There's no doubt about that.
Okay, let me try to maybe involve some people who are trying to get to us. I have a caller online. Hello. I have a caller online. Hello. Okay. As we try to sort our lines, we now have the East African community that has expanded from the Indian Ocean to the Atlantic. With the coming in of the Democratic Republic of Congo.
We thank God for it.
And President Yoweri Museveni, with his Pan-Africanism agenda, also you can give it to him. He's one of those, I think, Daniel Arap Moi and Benjamin Mkapa worked so hard for the revival of the East African community. And we have seen...
I've already really credited all the 7 leaders within the East African community countries now for the move they have made. 2, 1, they are coming on board of Congo. About a week ago, they have agreed now for an East African force to go and apply effort in Eastern Congo to stabilize it. I commend them for that as well. Well, I mean, where I find that leaders have made the right move, even when I disagree with them on other strategic questions, I would give them credit. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't give them credit.
Actually, Somalia had applied even much earlier than Congo to join the East African community. So, so it appears this vision that was energized by President Museveni, Benjamin Mkapa, and President Daniel Arap Moi is actually increasing, and before we know it, who knows, Ethiopia, maybe one day could say we're joining with over 100 million people. You know, and then we have a super state of sorts.
Why we need to really put a lot of effort in building the vehicles of governance, like here in Uganda, the parties, because the strength of the parties also going to determine the sustained governance of a country. So the country is strong, the regional bodies are strong, and then Africa is strong. Because we are facing an existential threat. As an African people, it is real. And there are two aspects in which we should look at this. One, the world is all struggling for resources. Africa happens to be sitting on significant amounts of resources which are needed by the rest of the world.
Yes.
And when it comes to trade, to the doing of business, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate for. Now, to negotiate fair deals, you must be strong, you must be well organized, you must stand your ground so that you cannot be manipulated by anybody. Now, for us to achieve that, we must be strong as nations, and then strong because the nations are the building blocks for the regional blocks. Once the regional blocks like EAC is strong, SADC is strong, ECOWAS is strong, Maghreb is strong, and they combine effort, then Africa is strong. Then we can protect ourselves, and therefore we can trade on fair terms with the rest of the world. But if we don't build strength in the nation states, there's no way the region blocks can be strong, and therefore there's no way the continent can be strong. It just goes without saying, you know.
It has to start with individual states.
Yeah.
Okay, as we come to the conclusion of our discussion tonight, things are having a technical hitch there in having people maybe ask you questions. You're a very optimistic man, even though one would be persuaded now to be pessimistic for Uganda's case.
No, we can't afford to be pessimistic.
For us who have not had a smooth transition of power ever since Uganda got independence.
Yes.
Do you see it happening?
I hope it does. I really hope it does.
Where do you get that?
I can't even understand how General Museveni, of all things, I wouldn't even understand that that would be the most outstanding legacy, because that's what has failed to happen throughout. That I don't know what drives him or motivates him. I guess I know for sure, but it's not something I'm going to say here on public TV. But for him not to achieve that is sad for him. You know, to know that in 60 years, has never been any smooth handover of power.
He started as a good man, and I still think he's still a good man. But is he not trapped by his own power?
Yeah, we all reap what we sow.
What's going to be your concluding remark on the show?
Those who are men and women of faith, get onto your knees and pray for our country. The struggle and the battle that is on is for the soul of the country. And for all countrymen and women, don't lose hope. We are engaged in going through very uncertain times. But we must not lose hope. We must act in whatever way we act, believing and hoping that the challenges we meet are going to be resolved in a manner that would leave our country in a stable state, that those who come into power will also pray that there would be people who will not get drunk when they get there. So this vicious cycle that we've been in for the last 60 years can be broken. And then we can have a country that grows on a steady basis, where there can be equality before the law, where there can be justice, fairness, transparency in the management of national resources, and where people can exercise their rights. And then we can live in a harmonious environment as a people, as a country. It may seem tough, but it is possible, and I believe by God's grace, we will achieve it.
General Mugisha Muntu, I want to thank you so much for your time, but most of all, for your insight. You always add value to our discussion, and I'm sure you did even tonight.
Thank you, Patrick.
If I may just repeat the words of General Muntu, it's a battle for the soul of our nation. Let us be audacious enough to hope for the best and work for the best and keep hope alive. Good night, and God bless Uganda.